Do artists still need record labels?
It's a yes or no answer for me.
What do you see as like most common around the successful artists that you work with? What are the sort of common traits that you see?
For sure, their mindset. They show up completely differently in terms of their willingness to try things, willingness to fail.
You've been in the industry, 15 years? Go back to the beginning of that 15-year journey. Like, what was the industry like then and how has it changed now?
I don't even think Instagram was a thing. You would literally have to go out with like a clipboard, pen and paper in all kinds of weather, line up outside of shows and return for a couple of free tickets to build the newsletter list.
Social media is the single biggest opportunity for any artist that has no money.
Yeah, as someone that has benefited off of posting on social media, it has completely changed my life. And I hear this a lot from a lot of artists where I sit them down and I'm like, what's your relationship with social media like? And so many of them are like, I'm kind of doing it because I feel like I have to do it. Probably why it's not working.
Atlanta, welcome to the Blind Talent Music Industry podcast. Great to have you here.
Great to be here.
So look, as someone that has worked with thousands of artists, you know, from your Post Malones right the way through to helping independent artists build communities, like monstrous communities around their fan bases, it must feel slightly that kind of pressure sometimes to actually work with artists and get the very best out of them. How do you find that journey? How have you found that journey as a music industry mentor?
Yeah, it's a strange one because I think my whole career, I started off initially always helping independent artists.
Right.
Was an independent artist manager very young and then kind of got catapulted into the major label world. And that kind of became my life and existence for so long, where the second I left the major label world, I realized like, oh, there's this whole other beast out there of independent musicians from all corners of the world who desperately need a lot of help. And there's a massive disparity here. So yeah, it's been a real journey, like working with independent artists and kind of figuring out like general themes of constant struggles, I guess, that they often come against compared to what you would often come against in a major label existence. And so it's been some of the best education for myself working with independent artists because it requires a whole level of other creativity, especially when you're working with independent budgets as well, of like, how do we build an audience? How do you monetize an audience when you don't have the backing or the luxury of global infrastructure that a label would provide? So I kind of realized like, okay, if I were to work with independent artists, especially when their main core, I'd say question that often comes up is the audience side of things. How am I going to approach this? I can't be someone who is essentially on the sidelines telling other artists what to do. I need to be out there making content myself. And so that has been its whole thing because by doing that, I've then learned how to build my own audience instead of doing it for other artists and actually sitting in the creator chair and going through the range of emotions that you do go through when you're the person in front of the camera. And it's been, yeah, you learn a lot of resilience. You learn a lot of tools for mindset, which I've then essentially developed. And now it's become a whole other part that I then coach my artists on what to do. So there's two sides of it where I've learned like the strategy part, but then more of the kind of emotional part to it. So yeah, in one part it's become like music instrumental as the business. It's like it is coaching. It is still kind of doing a lot of the stuff I would do in my artist management days for major label artists. But then there's a whole other side to it where I could spend hours and hours and hours on sessions where we are working through mental blockages and emotional mental schemas and things that are stopping people from doing the thing and making them feel good as well is a big part.
What do you see as like most common around the successful artists that you work with? What are the sort of common traits that you see and you go, yeah, the successful ones do this?
Traits that I often see that they carry is for sure their mindset. They show up completely differently in terms of their willingness to try things, willingness to fail, to learn. Their work ethic is a massive part of it as well. The artist could be the most talented artist in the world, but it is so draining, either as an artist manager or a coach or anyone even working, even at the label level, if you're having to drag an artist through the process of building their career, it's just dragging the team down.
Yeah.
And so I often say to artists, it's like, if you're willing to become a career artist, you essentially have to look at it of like, you are the CEO. And so you are the leader there, and you have to sell the vision verbally through your language, but also how you show up energetically. And if you show that you are putting in the reps and you are doing whatever it takes to get to where you want to be, and you are highly ambitious in that regard, then it's only going to encourage and empower the people around you. So that's a massive, massive element to it. The ones that get moved onto, let's say, the priority list, there's a priority list at labels. So whether you get signed doesn't necessarily mean you'll get your emails responded back to immediately. But if you make it on the priority list, then you're good. So the ones that end up going onto this priority list and you're kind of like catapulted through and having a lot of pressure put on you, the amount of workload that gets put on the artists and their teams just triples so quickly, and you get booked and busy. And the ones who are able to sustain that, they kind of take it in their stride. But I think long term, I think if you are working with an artist who, one, really knows themselves, and two, is essentially like up for it and giving things a go, and is a pleasure to work with, then that's only going to encourage the label more. That's not to say like you have to be walked all over, or you have to be a puppet. But I think when you're kind of at this sort of breaking point of like, it's go, try things out. Working with those artists who are like, yeah, you know what, I will go on that TV show that I may not watch, but let's give it a go.
Yeah.
And working with those artists who are more willing to try things, I think at that level is great. And that
but at
helps.
the top level, and I think
at the top level,
at
it's
the top level,
when militant type of.
But it's a different kind of beast. I referenced this before in earlier pods, but I remember meeting Taylor Swift when she was like 16. Clearly, from a young age, there's a different gravy going on here.
Oh, for sure.
There's a different
that's like
thing
a
going
lightning in a bottle type. That's like the stuff you can't teach. It's the, you can kind of feel that from like some of the global artists that clearly can hold that amount of success. You look at Harry Styles of the world, Taylors of the world, and it's like, you can hold it. Yeah. But I think there does come this level where, it's certain artists reach a point where they're like, I'm kind of comfortable here. And that's also okay. And then sometimes you go past that point and the pressure gets too much and things start falling away and they can't sustain it. But it's like, it's kind of more so like that personality of whether they just can. And some can't, and that's also okay. But the
difference is going to be, though, that sort of passion, right? You've been in the industry, 15 years?
So long, Mark.
15,
so
well,
long,
hey, you can't say 15 years is long when
long.
this old guy over here, right?
15 years officially in September.
Officially in September, right? So that's 15 years. And the industry has changed a lot. Yeah. Let's sort of go back to the beginning of that 15-year journey. Like, what was the industry like then, and how has it changed now? What do you see as like the fundamental shifts in how it operates?
Yeah, I mean, like if you go back 15 years ago in the music industry, the major difference is the technology that we had. So when I started out, I don't even think Instagram was a thing. Right. So it was like Facebook was a thing. And I have very clear images of, I would go in street team for Columbia Records when I was a student. And you would literally have to go out with like a clipboard, pen and paper in all kinds of weather, line up outside of shows and return for a couple of free tickets, get people to write in their emails to build newsletter lists. I remember I did one job for them at the Great Escape in Brighton when I was a student as well, just walking around Brighton with like arms full of Columbia Records tote bags, giving them away in turn of like emails. Brilliant. And I'm like, if only people knew that's what we had to do to get emails back then. And now all you need to do is set up a ManyChat automation from your comfort of your home on your phone. Yeah. It's like, you don't even have to go out and get like battered in the wind and rain, guys. So it was a lot of that. It was, I think it's definitely it's definitely changed in a way of who can build an audience. I think in the part, I mean, it's changed my life, especially now. Like, I wouldn't be doing this job if it wasn't for the way social media has evolved. So I think there's been good and bad involvements, but back then it was very much like record label. They were the holy grail. They were the gatekeepers. And it was much more of like a set path of like anyone with any amount of following could potentially get signed. And you would have A&R scouts trawling through SoundCloud, maybe going to the odd show, finding them, and then you'd get kind of just picked up and signed to a major deal. But that was sort of this like golden age. And then, you know, going into maybe even like 5 years ago, even when I was working at major labels, it was very much the era of like labels were kind of signing so many artists and kind of, it was a lot of this sort of like, we're signing artists, we're taking a lot of risks, and we're throwing things at the wall and seeing what sticks. And then the ones that don't, we'll probably end up dropping quite a few. And that happened a bit. And then I think what has happened now is obviously a global pandemic changed a lot of things. The knock-on effect of that in the global economy, but especially here in the UK. And I just think we're now at a point with the way the economy has changed and the way that technology has changed. I think we have labels that are taking less risks, and they want to see a higher return of investment because I think they lost a fair chunk of money with taking a lot of risks. And now I think, you know, with my label hat on, it's like, if I'm going to write a fairly large advancement, I kind of want to know that like I have a higher chance of getting that money back. How do I know that? Well, I kind of want to see if something's already connecting with an artist in the fan base. How do I know that? I'm probably going to see that on social media. And also I'm going to see if they can start selling tickets or there's something moving here. Whereas before, you didn't necessarily need to show that. It would definitely help your case and you probably get a better deal, but like you didn't need to show that. I think labels were a bit more willing to take a bit more of a chance.
Do artists still need record labels?
Look, I think it's a yes or no answer for me. I'd say what I'm seeing for the majority of the artists is there is a bottleneck of, let's say, one case you have an artist here that's been posting away, building, they're independent, and then boom, they go momentum, there's an influx of streams and fans, and now there's demand for touring, or maybe a huge career opportunity to support a major band on tour in the UK, Europe, which is easy gonna, you know, if you're 4-piece musicians, maybe even a tour manager van, all those costs, it's easy gonna set you back 40 to 50K just to do that European tour. Like shit gets very real very fast when the ball of momentum is going and going and going. And it becomes a very real situation where you look around and you're like, oh, we're at this tipping point to break through this ceiling to get us just out of this TikTok world into a very real industry world where all the various buckets of your career you need to now attend to. And the bottleneck I see is like the funding element. If you cannot sustain financially to be putting in the money to then essentially bankroll yourself to nurture all of these opportunities that are coming through off the back of potentially going viral on TikTok, then those opportunities they're going to pass you by, and then you're going to go back down to potentially where this sort of invisible ceiling that I see. So that is one risk. And so I think because I'm seeing a lot of my friends as well who are at that point with their artists and they are negotiating and signing deals. And the biggest thing I'm seeing is like the ability to export them into other territories and the ability to hire the radio pluggers and the TV pluggers and the press pluggers who have the relationships to build the story outside of social media and go on and do the tour support slots. Like all of those things, there's no way independent artist manager who's making nothing off of really nothing at that point, an independent artist who only has so many savings in their pot to sustain them there's only so much they can do as a duo to take that career so far. So it's this kind of conversation where it's like, yes, in one part, I hear when artists are saying, you know, like record labels are dying and it's the end, we don't need them. It's like, yes, And also there might also be a case for some certain artists, maybe not all, where it actually does make sense.
I'd agree with that. I think with labels, one analogy I always kind of come back to, and I don't know if this resonates with you, but it's that whole Dragon's Den thing. You walk into Dragon's Den and go, right, I'm Atlanta Cobb, and I'm a musician, I'm a singer-songwriter. And then the 5 dragons in front of you are basically the record labels, right? So they go, hey, we've got some money here, and we've got all the contacts and all the structure to take your product and get it much, much further than anywhere else.
Yeah.
You know, and because you don't have that. But you have to convince us that you're worth our money.
Yep.
So they'll ask you those questions, you know, what's the product like? So first of all, the product has to be good. Okay, great.
Yep.
How much did you sell last year? How much have you sold this year? How much are you forecasted to sell next year and beyond that? You know, are there any things we should know? Oh yeah, I've actually got a partnership with this person already. I've got a partnership with that person already. They're going to ask all those questions. Record labels ask exactly the same questions.
Yes. Yeah. It's leverage building.
Yeah.
And that's what I say to all the artists that I coach. I think this idea of what record labels were or potentially are right now, that has changed. That's no more. The model is moving, and it's becoming less so about artist development. To me, that seems to be happening at much more of a lower level, earlier stage level, perhaps just with you and your artist manager. That's where like the bulk of artist development is actually probably going to happen. Yeah. And same thing, I'm saying to artists, it's like, you need to look at it as like, if you were a record label and you were going to hand out an advancement, you want to know that the chances of you getting that money back and then some, it's going to pay off, because they are a business and they need to be sustainable, and they have certain shareholders that they need to please. And it's so, if you look at it like that, it's like, okay, how do you build the most amount of leverage to show them that there is something there to invest in and amplify? And when you focus on building something to then take into these record label meetings and go, hey, yeah, I just sold out my first headline show in London. Yeah. I just dropped a merchandise line and I sold it out. I have X amount of followers on Spotify and downloads. And even if it's small and mighty, I would say that that's so much more impactful than going and being like, got 100,000 followers on TikTok. Yeah. Like, cool. What are you doing with it? Yeah. And I don't think labels are interested in that anymore. They've kind of caught up to going, oh, sort of one-hit wonders on TikTok. They aren't, it's not a long-term.
We've spent a lot of money on one-hit wonders and lost a lot of money on one-hit wonders.
Oh, it's a bit of a flash in the pan. And now actually, if we want the money to kind of have this sort of like compound interest effect and keep rolling and rolling, then they're looking at actually what's converting. Yeah. And so that's why I bang on to so many artists. I'm like, you need to show them that stuff is moving and converting. Yeah. If you walked into a label and you were like, yeah, got all these signups, I've sold X amount of tickets, I'm making this amount of revenue, I'm like, that's so much more interesting than saying like, I went viral a few times.
And it's momentum more broadly, isn't it? It's about everything, really. How do you tell the story of everything? And often doing it with little to no fun sometimes. So that's where, of course, social media comes in. And that's probably a really nice segue, actually, into social media and the importance of social media. Because when we talk about, are labels really that important? Well, the CEO of a record label isn't going to go on social media for you. And yes, there's so much you can do to facilitate social media content. But social media is probably the single, would you agree with this? Social media is the single biggest opportunity for any artist that has no money.
Yeah, as someone that has benefited off of posting on social media, it has completely changed my life. And when I left my job in artist management, I didn't have much money, I didn't have much savings. And I was like, what if I just focused on social media and I just did that for like 6 to 9 months and just committed to that? And this is also with the caveat of like the product was there. The product is me and my service. Same thing with artists. The product is them and their music. So that was kind of there. And I was like, okay, so got the product, cool. Let's just figure out social media. What is the worst thing that could happen? It's like the worst thing that's happened is that no one sees it and it doesn't work out. Yeah. Okay, if that's the worst case scenario, then what's the best case scenario? Oh, I post and like I reach a global audience for free and it changes my life. And so what I say to artists or anyone, it's like, if you are building something and you want to get a bigger and better publishing or label deal, if you have more leverage, it's only going to work in your favor. Yeah.
I remember when, it was many years ago now, actually, Jodie Bryant, who I'm sure you know.
Yeah.
This was before Radio 1. This was before TikTok fame. You may have seen that we were in this very studio.
I have.
And, we was talking, or she was actually interviewing me as a piece of social media content for Blinding Talent, effectively.
Yep.
And how that came about was she wasn't doing any social media at that point. I saw something online and I was like, she's brilliant.
Yeah.
She's a brilliant, brilliant presenter. Obviously, later found out she comes from pretty good stock, actually. I didn't realize her father was involved in it too, in radio. And I was like, she's brilliant. She's actually brilliant.
Yeah.
So I was like, do you want to come in and do some content? This is before any of the other stuff. And she was like, yeah. So she came in, because this very room, we just had it set up slightly differently to how we have today.
Yeah.
And we had this great conversation. And I just thought, she's fucking brilliant. She's brilliant. And then she, at the same time, around that time, she had made the decision, very similar to your own, actually, which was, I'm going to post on TikTok. I think it was TikTok predominantly, mostly TikTok, every single day.
She gets it. Yeah.
That's what she did. And look where she is now. Radio 1, Future Pop, signed to a management company, doing great things. And it's amazing to see, because actually she is a real life, tangible version of what we're talking about right now. Like yourself, where you can leverage social media as long as you've got something useful for the audience. I think that's a slight distinction for me sometimes. Anyone can post social media content, but it has to have a value back to the audience.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You know, it can't just be his TikTok video of me doing something that you don't give a shit about.
No.
It has to have some purpose to it. And so the point I'm making here is consistency and success for me kind of align. So if you are going to go into social media, which you made the decisions to do, and it's just how we're talking, really, isn't it? You know, it's how you've gone and done the various things that you've done, is because people have seen your content online and gone, that's real good.
Yeah.
That adds value to my life.
I was literally getting messages at one point of people being like, I've seen you on my feed at least 10 times. I might as well just follow you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's something working in this.
Yeah.
And so, you're completely bang on. Like, it's one part is consistency. One part is the value element, so what you can consistently give to your audience. And then the other part is the visual consistency of it. That's how you stick in someone's brain. So like the branding element. And all of this, like, I kind of came quite naturally. I sort of, because I'm chronically online anyway, I often talk about like Uno reversing it. So if you're ever unsure, like, just flip it around and think like, okay, what as a consumer, like what gets me to cross over to somebody's page and eventually hit the follow button? And how do I remember people's faces when I'm scrolling for an hour at a time and I'm seeing 100 different faces? So I kind of realized, like, okay, if I kind of figure all of this stuff out, I call it your social media ikigai, which is like a whole other masterclass in itself. But it's the value, it's the how to stay consistent, how to do this in a way that this is sustainable without avoiding burnout and path of least resistance, but also, showing up and really knowing like your why. And I think what ties like both Jodie and myself together is like, we have a very clear why we're doing this and slightly different outcomes. Like Jodie is very much like, I'm doing this to build my personal brand because I know that's going to help me when it comes to landing better jobs. And like one of her biggest goals was Radio 1. She's gone and done that. Yeah. And no coincidence that at the same time, her profile and her like celebrity and influence has also risen. Yeah. My why is, obviously I'm a service-based business. I still need to be sustainable. But also really wanted to remove a lot of the gatekeeping that was going on in the industry. And finally I could, because I was free. I wasn't tied to a company. So I was like, I can share a decade's worth of industry information and actually help real people. And it's like my favorite thing to do. Yeah. And it was never really like the core plan, but it quickly became like, I realized like by helping as many people as possible, that's my value. Yeah. And now also there is this demand for people to want to work with me one-to-one. And boom, we have a business. So it's this whole, like, all my pots are filled by doing it. Yeah. But it was never like, if I entered social media with a mindset of like, well, and I hear this a lot from a lot of artists where I sit them down and I'm like, what's your relationship with social media like? And so many of them are like, I'm kind of doing it because I feel like I have to do it. I'm like, that's probably why it's not working, because you're doing it for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
So I think when you're very like purpose driven, and like, I'm not going to sit here and be like, I love social media. Like there are days where I hate doing social media. It's absolutely love-hate thing. But it is the vessel that gets me over a hill to live the life that I actually truly want to live. And so therefore I do the social media thing.
It's tough, isn't it? Because like yourself, we work with lots and lots of artists, and social media comes up quite a lot for obvious reasons, because it's the single most important thing they should do. So when we have that conversation, which is they have a difficult relationship with social media because they didn't get into musicianship, didn't go to LIPA, they didn't go to these ACMs to be a social media content creator. They went there to become a musician and an artist and fulfill their dream. And people should frankly go and live their life and fulfill their dreams. I truly believe that. And what we talk about is, as a Planet Talent, is getting artists closer to the music industry, because actually, to your point, the music industry does feel gatekept at times. And so we go, well, we're already in there, so we'll just open the gate and let you in. Yeah, come along. This is how it works. We take artists to events and we do all sorts of things with them because we want them to experience the industry in all of its mostly good ways. And so, but once you get inside the industry, everything else makes a little bit more sense too. Oh, so that's why the social media bit works, because that fits into that story and that narrative and this part. This is where jobs like yourself and the roles like your role are vitally important, because actually what an artist doesn't necessarily have is, you talked about being the why, a big Simon Sinek fan over here. So, bring it on, baby.
Love it.
And actually I say to artists all the time, you need to understand why you're doing this. That carrot, that the carrot and the stick thing, it's a real thing. Do you really want to do it? What is going to move you towards that goal? What is it you need to hear? And this is where these roles that we have are so important. Sometimes an artist does just need a good kick up the arse.
Yep.
I'm afraid.
Yep.
And that's really down to understanding your coaching techniques within an artist. What do they need? Knowing what they need is really important. Because an artist sometimes sit in the middle and they sit in this no man's land forever until they get that one eureka moment that maybe you're sitting there on a call with them at Atlanta and you say, have you ever thought about it like this? And they go, and there's that kind of pregnant pause almost, and they go, fuck, no.
Yeah.
That's what I should be doing.
I love those moments. Yeah.
Again, they're beautiful moments, aren't they? Because you see a physical change in them and you have impact. Now, what you worry about, of course, is how long does that impact last for? And this is why consistency and having ongoing sessions and things are really, really important to keep you on track. But when we talk about social media more broadly, if you had to give them one tip and say, right, I need you to do some social media. I need you to fall in love with it a little bit. Here's one tip that is an unlockable.
So an artist comes to me and they're like, I want to do social media. Well, the first question to me would always be why. I would need to know why, because without the why, then I don't know how or where.
How many whys do you need until you find the real why?
That's the work, isn't it? That's my
Why?
job. Is
But why is that?
Unpicking. I take their brain
I find it always
and I
comes down
unpick
to
it.
money. Actually, usually if you keep asking why, eventually it comes down to money.
What is it? I work on reducing friction points, and essentially all friction points are just the blockages, the friction that stops you or slows you down from doing the thing that you just want to do. And they show up everywhere in our life. So usually the biggest friction point I see for artists and why they're not posting on social media is either lack of ideas, lack of time. Maybe they haven't organized their time right. Lack of environment, lack of equipment, lack of creativity, lack of why. So then I would work down to figuring out like what's the number one thing stopping you from doing it. And
what do you think is the most common thing?
Most common thing I hear is lack of ideas. Which really there is a system for it. That's why we have...
ChatGPT?
God, no. Absolutely not. No. The system is like you need to study it. I often say like success leaves breadcrumbs, but most of us are not looking. It's right in front of you.
Yeah.
Some of my biggest, best performing videos, I have taken a certain format that's already proven to work, and then you go and you kind of essentially add in your own sprinkle of unique touch to it. And the reason why I say that is because if you are constantly having to reinvent the wheel and like throw stuff out there with no real gauge as to like, does this format even work well or not? It's going to be a much longer and tougher road to figure that out. You might get lucky. You might like have a lightning in a bottle moment where you're like, I've made this completely brand new format and it just works and it just connects. Like amazing. But for the most part, what I often see is like there's patterns to all of this stuff.
Yeah.
There's a reason why like podcast setups work well, better in person. And there's a reason why certain clips of certain podcasts perform better than others. And there's a reason why certain clips of music perform better than others. And so once you really start noticing like actually there is a system and ways to come up with ideas, it does become a lot easier than having to like reinvent the wheel. So that's one part, it's the ideas. And then the other part is time. I think a lot of artists are hearing like, you need to be posting 3 times a day. And I'm like, I've never posted 3 times a day because I know me and I know I cannot sustain that because I'm doing all the other things I need to do in my life. But the biggest thing is like, you need to think, what can I do? Not what everyone else is doing.
And consistency is relative.
100%, but it's also a long game, but it's also aligning the expectations. And I think that's why so many people stop is because they might listen to this podcast and then they might leave and they're going to feel a hit of dopamine. They're going to be like pumped up to go post on social media for like a month. Yeah. And then they're going to realize like, oh shit, it's a bit hard this, isn't it? I need to keep this up. Yeah. And then they're going to feel a little bit deflated. All these things happened to me. I went from 0 to 10,000 followers pretty quickly in the grand scheme of things. And then kind of like 10,000 to 20,000. And then I sort of hit a plateau. And then I started getting the hit of like the validation was going down. The hits of dopamine were going down. And I remember getting the itch of like, this isn't growing as fast as it was. And I remember having
it's declining.
I was like, should I spend money on TikTok ads? And I was looking at all the outside rather than looking inwards of like, why is this content not performing as well? So I was like, panicking because I wanted the hit of dopamine to continue on and this kind of instant gratification to continue on. And I had a conversation with a friend of mine who's a YouTuber, been a YouTuber for like 10 years, bought a house with her YouTube money, lovely life. Yeah. And she was like, do you really think like growth is linear? She was like, no, it's going to go up, it's going to go down. Just post through the plateau. The dynamic will change, the pendulum swing, everything is cyclical. And I'm so glad I listened to her and I didn't scratch the itch of like, I need to spend money to get views so I feel good. And I'm glad I didn't do that for a bit because that made me better at the craft of speaking to my people, engaging with them, trying different things out as a creator. And it just made me better.
It's a great question, that. And it's a question we have to deal with quite a lot as a digital agency, an advertising agency, as well as a social media agency. We kind of often have that struggle of organic versus paid. And some artists want to expedite success. So they go, hey, I've got cash and I'd like to do this. And we go, please don't run ads on TikTok. We try to encourage them not to. Now, if my TikTok ads manager or account manager is listening to this, it's not that we don't want them to.
I'm not wholeheartedly against it as well, by the way.
No.
I think there's a way for like get your organic into a good place.
Yeah.
Get into the rhythm of things. And it all just goes back to the why of like, okay, does this make sense to run ads now? And why are you running ads? And if you're going to do ads, like do it properly. Yeah, like work with professionals who know what they're doing.
Totally.
Don't just press boost post and sort of go like ignore the results.
That's one of my bugbears is that everyone thinks they can run ads because they press boost Instagram post or boost TikTok.
It's not the same.
It's not the same. It's not the same and mildly offensive, actually, I would say. No, but it's not. It's I understand it. We understand it. We work with artists all the time, so we understand when that button's there and it says boost
tempting.
Post.
Yeah.
You're like, £1 a day. That sounds really efficient.
Yeah.
And you get 200 likes and no comments. We all get suckered into it to some degree, I suppose. But it's important because that's a big question we get all the time.
Yeah.
Big question we get all the time. Should I use TikTok ads? We have our view on it, but I'd love to. What is your view on running TikTok ads? Obviously, I know you're queen of your organic, of course, but
yeah.
But there is a sort of practical element to this too, which is just a straight up CTA, go and do this.
Yeah, I mean, ads in general, I feel like TikTok ads is a bit more of the Wild West. And I much prefer if anyone's going to use ads or even just to begin with ads, like lean more into Meta Business Suite just because of its capabilities. But I do think like using ads, there is going to come a time in your life where like it does make complete sense to use ads, because it's this constant scales, isn't it? It's the balance.
Yeah.
If you wholeheartedly only ever rely on organic content, that's still a risky game because you're at the behemoth of an algorithm.
Yeah.
And those algorithms, they tend to change sort of at least every 6 months.
Mm.
And if you are not aware of that, if you are not constantly being reactive to that, it's risky because there's a ceiling. So if you want to break past that ceiling, you want to set yourself up. Again, it's always this like, what's the best return of investment on my time and money?
Yeah.
And if you're at a place where it's like, okay, I'm in a good place with the organic, we've tried a lot of stuff out with our content, we know what of our organic content is working better. Now, if we go amplify that through ads, chances are you're probably going to have a better time of it 100%. With ads.
Yeah.
And then you also need to know, again, like I think our work is also aligning the expectations of a lot of our artists, because I think ads can sometimes, for artists, it's like, yeah, I'll throw a bit of money in it, I'll get instant results. It's like, well, actually, it's going to take a few months of like trying and testing a lot of different ad creative out, different
and
ad
also
sets
targeted advertising should mean targeted advertising. You know, and I think there's a slight grayness there too when it comes to that. You know, like what you're talking about, something we advocate for too. Post organic content, see what's winning.
Yeah.
If it's winning, almost certainly you run an ad on it, it will do, you know, substantially better than this one that's already proven that no one really cares about it. And so when we talk about Meta, that's a lovely segue into Meta, by the way, because I think Meta is a bit of a strange one too. But what's your view? You mentioned about Meta. What's your view on running Meta ads more broadly? Good thing? Bad thing?
Good and bad. Great if you get it right. I've seen it do really good things for artists and like excelling the different buckets that they have that they need to fill. So for example, if you've got one artist who's like doing quite well with their sort of core engaged fan group and they want to amplify that, or maybe they're like even sending out 100 capacity shows with their kind of like small, powerful following, but they're like, my Spotify is lacking. I'm like, okay, maybe there is a strategy here that you could look into. Whenever, because I'm like, my experience is mostly organic as myself. So whenever an artist comes to me and they're like, I'm thinking about doing ads, I will always stop them. I'll be like, truly, if you want to get the most out of your ads, I wouldn't recommend you go and do it yourself. Like it is a beast in itself. That's why you have ad specialists, because Meta Business Suite as well it's not the most user-friendly, and you're going to end up following the prompts that Facebook gives you. So you end up spending more money on their platform and it may not necessarily be the best thing for wherever you want your traffic to go to. So I always say, like, actually, as part of your ad budget, you should actually include spend to invest in an ad specialist, because I guarantee you that will give you better long-term results. So everything is with a long-term view in mind. And I think one of the biggest hindrances I see with a lot of artists is the instant gratification of like, oh, I throw some money at this thing and then it must happen now. Be prepared to maybe invest into this for like a few months. Like if you really want to get them up and going properly. And they're like, what? I was hoping for a week. And I'm like, you can, but it's just not going to be as strong, you know? You need all of this stuff. Like you need time. You're sowing seeds to bloom 6 to 9 months down the line.
Yeah.
Everything you do.
But I think that's a really good point. And I think it really, really speaks to, when you talk about long game, we talk about long game in organic, but long game in paid is just as important, you know, because people think, oh, I'm going to spend £100 today, tomorrow be a superstar. No, like any algorithm, it takes time and you need to test, you need to test creatives, but ultimately it's a long game. Work with good people and you should get better results. That doesn't mean you will. Also, that's the beautiful nature of our business, is that it's not linear in any way. Actually, exactly. You may be the most talented person in the world, but if it doesn't connect, it doesn't connect. And that is the universe sort of making that decision rather than us. And so when we talk about, I don't know why I call it the audience economy on my pad. I'm like, ick. The audience economy.
Buzzword.
Oh, but the reason why I bring up the audience economy more broadly is just the funnel. I talk about the funnel quite a lot, which is a really technical and slightly like
Every time I mention funnels, I can see artists be like,
You can see them switch
this
off
is
and go,
boring.
click.
And I'm like, no, stick with me. This is important. Like the whole reason you're posting on social media is to get people to click on that link in bio
Yeah.
and follow your marketing funnel.
Yeah.
So why are you not obsessed over your link in bio? And
Yeah.
I'm like, guys, and like it goes
powerful.
untouched. And I'm like, that's the marketing funnel.
Yeah.
And I always use a visual person. So I'm like, think of it like you're herding sheep. And like, they don't know where they're going. You need to tell them
Yeah.
where to go. And you need to show them very clearly in the funnel.
There are lots of different versions of this too. Sometimes there are 5-stage, sometimes there are 3-stage. But ultimately, it's a bunch of people who don't know who you are that you want to turn into a bunch of people that really, really like you. We talk about turning your fans into family. And the reason why we say that is because family is a really powerful analogy because you've been nurturing that fan base a while, right? You've known them for ages. They know you know them intimately. And so you would say that's a pretty solid community for the most part, hopefully. It's a solid community around you. So if you can turn your fans into have that same kind of connection with you, that is freaking powerful.
Yeah.
Now, would you argue that Youngblood's fan base are more akin to family? Probably, the way that he talks about them and the way he presents himself.
Yeah.
Taylor Swift, the Swifties, would you say that's more akin to a family? Yes, it feels more like a family dynamic.
Massive family.
And that's such a powerful thing because actually, when I talk about this stuff, and I don't know how much you agree with this stuff, but one of the first things I say to artists is, have you read books on human evolution? And they look at you and go, sorry,
no.
what are you talking about? Human evolution. Have you ever read the book Sapiens? Sorry, we talk about my own music career? I'm like, the only reason I talk about this stuff and Maslow's hierarchy is because actually a real take away music and everything else, we're humans. So we have pre-designed behaviors.
Well, we grew up as in caves, like in a tribe.
Yeah.
So a lot of it is like herd mentality.
Yeah.
Of, you see something kind of cool and shiny, and then it's like, oh, it's like the ChatGPT effect.
Yeah.
It's like you get the early adopters, and then they're kind of like the tastemakery, cool, like in the know, and then it starts bleeding out to the masses.
Yeah. Well, this is what I've ludicrously called a killer closing question.
Ooh.
If we were to revisit this conversation in 10 years' time, do you think we'll still even be talking about record labels? Will we even have this conversation of, is this the idea that a record label doesn't even exist in the future? What do you think?
I think the question of should artists have a record label or not, I think that will change. I can see us still talking about record labels in 10 years.
Right.
I think the question will become more of like, what record label has adapted and become more artist friendly? And whether that looks more of like a joint venture style partnership. I can see the labels living on through the current landscape and all like the changes now. If they invest more into, there'll be one, like a content media production like house. They have the capabilities to do that. If they retain capabilities for global infrastructure, global teams to amplify, if they retain ability for decent capital and better terms, maybe they're shorter terms, like shorter options, then I think there is a way in which labels still serve a purpose for some certain artists. But I think it will adapt into more of a conversation of like, which are the better deals? What's the artist-friendly label? Rather than like a necessity to have, or rather a conversation where it's label versus artists.
Okay. So
What do you think?
do you know, I honestly don't know. But if I had to future gaze and say, would we even be talking about record labels in 10 years' time? I just think the concept of a record label will change entirely because the way that technology will advance, I just think the way that we collect royalties, this is just my thought process. I could be completely wrong, but we always talk about music publishing and distribution and labels quite separately. I just think it will just become a thing.
Yeah.
It will just
Everything
become one
all
thing.
in-house.
Because rather than, hey, I've got to register my music over here and I've got to register my music over here and I've got
It's
to
so
cut my
complex.
PRS over here and I've got to get a deal over here, but I've got to distribute through here. I just feel like if I had to future gaze, the idea of a record label might still be a thing, but I don't believe that there will be so many different organizations that enable artistry. I think you'll have one button that you can go, I want to release a song tomorrow, but make sure I collect all my royalties. Click.
Yeah. I mean, that would be ideal. But
Wouldn't
then,
that be great?
Would that then mean, it's kind of like in the live sector where it's like Ticketmaster and Live Nation have the monopoly on it.
Yeah.
Would that then probably mean Universal has the monopoly on it?
Well, someone said to
On
me
how
not
much
so
they
long ago,
require.
they said not the problem, but the thing that labels missed out on years ago is that they should have started their own live businesses. It should have been Universal Live Group. It should have been Warner's Live Group.
Yeah.
They should have been the Live Nations. They should have been, that's what they should have owned all those years ago rather than partnering with.
Yeah.
What we may see even is that those companies have their own labels at some point, perhaps. I don't know. But it's interesting. Who bloody knows? In the future, what will generally happen?
I think a lot's going to happen.
Quick-fire questions.
Oh,
okay, quick-fire questions. TikTok or Spotify?
Would TikTok change my life?
TikTok or Spotify? Quick-fire.
TikTok.
TikTok. Viral moment or long-term fan base?
Oh, long-term fan base.
Record deal or independence?
Independence with a record label budget.
The one platform artists should focus on right now.
The platform where their audience are. Platform where their fan base is. I'm not going to tell a 60-year-old to go on Snapchat.
I would.
If their audience isn't on Snapchat.
Well, I'd have to show them how to use it first. No one's got the time for that. And then finally, the best bit of career advice you ever received.
Someone said to me once, opinions are like assholes and that everyone has one.
That's where we're going to end it with. I'm really happy with that. But look, honestly, thank you so much for coming on today. It's been actually loads and loads of fun. I've really enjoyed it. And it's great to hear that there are people in the industry like yourself that are actually looking at artists more holistically as well as strategically. But no, honestly, it's been a real privilege and I've really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me on. It's good fun.
Make sure you subscribe and drop us a follow on Instagram to get involved with the conversation. For more information, go to blindingtalent.com or drop us an email at industry@blindingtalent.com. Thank you.